everyone, it's Miriam with a Y. Let's play with alcohol ink today for our project. I have pulled out the three primaries from Piñata: Sunbright Yellow, Señorita Magenta, and Baja Blue. But you can work with any colors that you want to use. I'm just using these three because most people have them. For today's project, I'll be using my airbrush, but you can use a straw or the tubing from a fish tank or aquarium, or even a blow dryer instead. But if you do have an airbrush, they're lots of fun, so definitely pull that one out. I have my favorite airbrush listed in the description box below the video, and also at my alcohol ink kit on kit.com/miriamsnature, where you'll see pictures and links to everything that I love to use when working with alcohol ink. You'll also want a dotting tool of some sort, ideally one that comes to a really tiny point, like this one. A dental micro brush, if you have one, or sometimes these are called eyelash glue applicators. I have everything listed in the description box below, and also in the kit that lets you see pictures of everything on kit.com. And also a small paintbrush. Doesn't have to be quite this fine. It could be something like this. It'll really depend on the size of the bubbles that you have toward the end. It'll all make sense when we get there. Our substrate, which is just a fancy word for surface we'll be painting on, will be the back of Kirkland photo paper. Not the shiny side that your printer would print on, the back. And the reason we're using the back is because this particular photo paper has a coating on the back, which makes it non-porous, so it behaves very much like Yupo paper for a lot less money. You may find other brands that also do this, but when you're looking for a photo paper to use to do this, make sure that the back repels water. If it's just plain paper on the back and it absorbs liquid, it won't work. It needs to have sort of like a plastic coating, which the Kirkland brand does. I thin all of my inks beforehand with 91 or 99% alcohol, just to make it easier for me so that I don't have to keep putting down a drop of ink and alcohol. I mean, I will be putting down alcohol too, but I'd have to put down even more if I didn't thin my inks first. And also another reason that I thin my inks first is to prevent their being able to stain the paper that I use. Yupo and the back of this photo paper will stain when you put down color straight from the bottle. So you can't get back down to the white of the paper easily. But if you thin your inks a lot before using them, then you do have a chance to get down to the white, which is really important for the wispy ethereal look. To prevent being repetitive and explaining how to thin the inks in every single video, so that you don't die of boredom, if you need that information, I'm going to link a video at the top that explains it pretty well. And I'll also put two videos in the description box below for a more detailed description of how I thin my inks, in case you've never seen that before. And then finally, you'll need alcohol, isopropyl alcohol. Either 91% or 99% if you have it. Either will work just fine. If you have only 70, it can kind of work too, but if you can get a higher grade, it is really much better. And the reason for that is that lower grade alcohols like 70% or heaven forbid 50%, definitely don't use that, is that those have more water. Alcohol ink doesn't like water. It really wants alcohol because that's what it's made of and that's what it understands. So if you use a watered down version of isopropyl alcohol, like 70%, the alcohol ink kind of breaks up a little bit. It kind of gets weird and a little grainy. So if you can use a higher grade, you get a much smoother consistency to your inks when you thin them. Okay, I'm going to start out with a a little bit of blue, and I'm just going to shoot for a little bit of a curve to this piece. So just a little blue down. Kind of looks like a little worm heading that way right now. All right, I'm gonna put a little bit of pink down, magenta, and put some alcohol just to help me keep it wet enough to blend. To be a little careful. Yellow can go here. When the yellow touches this, it'll kind of go teal, more teal, and then green. When it touches this, it'll kind of take on a reddish orange cast. But if it combines with these two colors, I'm going to get sort of a brown, which is okay. But if you don't want brown, you kind of want to avoid getting all three primaries to touch, because once they do, you get brown. Like if I put yellow here and it touched the purple, automatic brown. But here, I'm kind of safe, as long as it doesn't go all the way and cross over. Which again, it's not a bad thing. It's just that if you don't want brown, then you have to kind of be mindful of the placement of your colors. Green. Soften this area here. think that's a good, even blend. Now, the only other thing now I'm going to look for is within this, are there any spots that are too white? Because I don't want that. I'm going to just put a little blue on the tip of my little dental brush and just sort of fill in this area here. I don't think I want that to stay white. So I'm just going to dab some blue in here. Do the same here. Give it a little bit more depth of color right here. What I'm pretty much doing is turning this into almost like a marker. This doesn't hold that much if you blot it down a little. And what's really nice about these, unlike, let's say a cotton swab, for example, these don't leave lint behind. Like I would never use a cotton swab if doing something like this, because you'd get those little fibers all over the place. Ugh. I think we're pretty good. I mean, because we're about to make white spots. So, but I want to not have any already before we start to do our next step. I have my little cup. I like this particular style because they're silicones, so they're pretty much endlessly reusable. They may stain. Some inks will stain them, like Señorita Magenta stains even silicone. So this one's got a little bit of a pink cast. I got mine on eBay for, I think I got like 5 for $1 or something like that. But I haven't been able to find them lately for that. You can get something like, I think it's like 100 of them for $5 plus shipping. So it works out to like $10 for like 100 of them. And what's really nice about these is they don't tip over easily. They're very stable. And if you're a resin user or an acrylic pourer, these also are awesome for holding up your canvases. So you can put a few down wherever you need to and then set your canvas down on them. So if you're working on a wooden board and you don't want to have to stick a bunch of push pins in it because it's too hard to do, these are great for that too. All right, I'm going to put some alcohol in here. Now for this step, if you have 99%, I find that that's even better. So I'm going to use 99 for this step. But 91 will work well. But if you have 99, I think it works a little better. I might be imagining that. So now my goal is to make bubbles. And all I'm going to do is literally take my little micro brush, dunk it in some alcohol, get it nice and wet, and literally touch my painting. And I want to avoid coming down the middle. I want to come just outside of the blue because it's really down the middle. And your first set of bubbles, you don't want them to touch each other. And the reason for that, so I just made one here and one here. If I make another one right here and it touches that one, it's going to form a big blob. It won't be a nice roundish bubble, but it'll sort of become oval and sort of lumpy looking. So I want to space these out for now so that they don't touch each other yet. And I want them to be all different sizes. Oh, I just went into the blue a couple of times. I wasn't paying attention. It happens. It's not a problem. Now, you may find if you put one in a particularly dark area that the border, the ring that's going to form around, is going to have sort of like a scalloped kind of edge to it, like this. Personally, I don't mind that. But if you do, and you want it to be more of a fine line like this, you might want to come in and just kind of wipe it up a little bit. Now, once a bubble has dried, and I'm pretty certain of it being dry, now I'm good to put another next to it. Because now, if I put a bubble here, it'll grow, and now it won't make a blob. it'll either stop when it hits the other one or cross into it, but you'll see two distinct circles as opposed to a lump. So see, this one's really bleeding. It's really going to get a thick line. So what I could do now is sort of mop up the edge. I'm just going to continue to make a series along the edge. The goal is just lots and lots and lots of them. Now, what you might also find is that some of your bubbles will get a dark center, which can look a little booby. So if that's not your cup of tea, you can also come in with a damp brush and remove that little dark spot. And you know just what I mean when I say booby. I'm not going to elaborate. Children are watching this channel. While you're doing this, if you find little blips, little issues that you had in the painting that you didn't love, like when I got a little bit of brown and I didn't really want that, then put a bubble on it. You can hide anything with a bubble. So I'm going to put a bubble right here so that I can take out that brown area that doesn't match any place else in the painting. And then as the bubble dries, to prevent that dark spot, with a relatively dry micro brush, after I've blotted it dry, I can come in and literally mop up the center, and that'll keep it from darkening. Now, something else you can do for fun is make bubbles that have color. So I'm going to add a drop of blue to my alcohol. I'm going to thin it a little bit by adding more alcohol to it, so that now when I make a bubble, it'll have some color. These are personal choice options. While you weren't looking, I added a couple of pink ones. And now what I'm going to do is put in some that overlap. For the most part, I haven't overlapped much, and I'm going to do that with predominantly clear, just straight alcohol with nothing in it. For example, here there are two, so I'm going to put one there. That'll cross both. And I'll touch one here on the edge of this one, so it'll cut into that one and form a new one. So I want to do that periodically. I'm happy with that. I think I like it. So what I want to do now is fade out all the bubbles on the edge. So to do that, I've grabbed my paintbrush and I am going to just pick up some clean alcohol, come into the edge and just pull away. So the edge of anything, if there's a bubble on the edge, I'll leave half of it there, but the half that's out facing this way will get washed away. So I'm just coming in and pulling. Like here, for example, I will come in and just pull away because this is the one on the edge. Same with this one, cut into it, pull away. I might take a piece of tissue paper and wipe that away so that it really fades away to nothing. And if I'm picking up as much color as I'm picking up here, I will let it fade out a little bit before really wiping it away. And like I said, I'll do that all the way around. You may find that just using a tissue dampened with some alcohol to do this all the way around is easier. That part is entirely up to you. Now that this is all done, the last thing I'm going to do is add a little fine detail. You can end here. You may think this is just what you want, and this is as far as you want to go, and that's fine. But I'm going to take it a little further. Now for this, I'm going to add just a little bit of each of my colors in a little palette, and I will thin them a little. And now, using my dotting stylus, I'm just going to dot color randomly along the edge. And like I said, I want a small point. Now this particular stylus has two sizes. One dot is bigger than the other. So I'm using the bigger one first, and eventually I'll switch over to the smaller one. Now this is the kind of thing that some people do by putting a toothbrush into some ink and then flicking the bristles. I personally don't do it that way because sometimes that works really well and sometimes it doesn't work at all. And if it doesn't work, you could have ruined your whole piece. And I don't want to risk that. So doing it this way, I have better control and it's kind of fun. I find it relaxing. I'm going to switch over to the other end now, which is a little smaller. And I'm being very random about it. And now going into another color. Now these dots I just leave on the periphery. I don't bring them into the center, but that's a personal choice. You might want them over everything, but for me, I like it out here. I am going to call that done. I think it's quite pretty. I really like the little dots. Being in the midst of winter, this feels very springy to me, which I really need. Because it's just been too cold for too long. I hope that you enjoyed this. I'm going to show you some close-ups, and I hope you'll tell me what you think about this in the comments. For tutorials, experiments, and more in resin, alcohol inks, and acrylics, make sure to subscribe. Let me know what other things you're hoping to learn or explore. As always, I'm so happy you chose to spend some time with me. If you'd like to help the channel, there are a few ways described in the description box below. Go let your creative natures shine now. See you in a couple of days. Bye now.